Hey, this video tutorial covers the SimonT Hockey Simulation Client for version 2. I'm Kevin Lacey of the Elite Hockey Experience, and we're going to cover some things for those of you who are brand new to the SimonT simulator, or for those of you who have been using the software for some time but would like to learn a little bit more. Now, the first thing is obvious. Go to the website and download the Sim client. SimonT.info is the website. Click on download and you'll have some options. What you want to be looking for is the client for PC or the client for Mac. If you're a general manager, you do not want to click on the simulator itself. That is for the commissioners of the leagues. You want to click on one of these two options. Now, the very first time you open up the SimonT client, you'll see it says no league file loaded. Now on version 2, you want to be looking for an STC file. The best thing to do is to go to your league website, download the league file directly to the folder that your client is in, so it automatically will find it. Click on the STC file, and voila, you're already there. In this video, we're going to be using the Vancouver Canucks as an example. So you're going to double click on the Canucks and it will bring up this screen with many options. When you go into your roster, you can view both your pro and farm rosters for your next upcoming game. This is, of course, if farm is active in your league. In this example, farm is active and it is a traditional NHL style with 18 skaters dressed and 2 goalies dressed. Anyone else is a scratch. The easiest way that I have found to set your lineups is to go one at a time between the forwards, defense, and the goaltender. So starting off with forwards, you got 12 forwards dressed. You can click on Justin Fontaine, for example, and insert him into the lineup. However, with the league settings of no more than 12 forwards, it says roster is incomplete. And there you have it. So we're not going to dress Justin Fontaine for this game. After your forwards are done, of course, naturally go check out your defensemen and then your goaltenders. So now that your lineup is set and it does say roster is complete, there are no outstanding issues, you can go into your lineup. Now, in this particular case, the lines are incomplete because, as you can see, the right wing on line 2 has no one there. Again, going back to what I said earlier, it's easiest to separate the forwards and defense and the goaltender in each individual step. So who are we going to put here at line 2? We've scratched Justin Fontaine, and if you really want to look down, you can see here, alright, Cam Atkinson is on line 1, David Jones is on line 4, and Zach Kassian is nowhere to be found. So the logical choice is put Zach Kassian on line 2. But maybe Zach Kassian's not worthy of being on my line 2. Maybe he should be on line 3. Maybe I want Fleischman on line 2. Well, you can just keep playing around with these options, put whoever you want there, and depending on your league rules, in this particular case, you can't have the same person on the front 2 lines. But what if you don't have time to be playing around with lines and you just need to do something real quick? You can click on Auto-Made Lines and all of a sudden your lines are all filled. Now, auto-made lines is actually not recommended because it doesn't necessarily mean that every one of your players is going to be placed into the lineup. In EHE, there are actually rules about this where every player must be put into the lineup. So let's see here. Zach Kassian is on line 2. Okay. Who else? Franz Nielsen, he's on a lot of lines. And David Jones is on a line. And wait a minute. Eric Nystrom is only on extra forward lines. Even though I did auto-made lines, he's not in the actual lineup. He's just an extra skater. Well, what happened here? Well, as you can see, Ryan O'Reilly is on both lines 1 and 4 because if you go to your roster, look at the right wings. you actually only have 3 right wings active. Now in this particular case, the league is set up where all forwards can play any position. However, the auto lines will only put players in the lineup based on their actual position. Zach Cassian, David Jones, Cam Atkinson, they are the only right wings. So, because we have an excess of centers, it placed the highest overall player, Ryan O'Reilly, as your line 4 right wing. So again, even if you hit auto-made lines or even partial auto-made lines, it's not an exact science. So if your league rules say you have to have all of your players in the lineup, you'd better go in and make sure that every one of these guys is in the lineup. So we've just talked about the forwards, but the same goes for defense, power play, and the rest of the special teams. And there's Eric Nystrom as an extra forward, even though he wasn't put in the lineup originally. You can also play around with the strategies. So if you want an ultra offensive power play, you just put as many points as your league will allow, which the default is 5. You can make it an all offensive power play. The same goes for your penalty kill and any other line that you have, except for the last minute, because the simulator knows that you're pressing or you're facing a team that is pressing. Now that you've learned to set your lineup properly for the first game, what about for the next game? Well, if you click on this little caret, you can go to the next game. Now, I don't want to take my time going through one by one. You can copy the rosters for up to the next 10 games that you play. Just type in the number of the game that you want to copy to. And of course I do. And it was successfully copied to the second game. Now that your roster is set for the second day, it does not mean that your lines are set for the second day. When you go here, oh, they're still empty. So you do need to go into the copy lines function, enter the lines for the day, and yeah. Now, a really good way of being able to tell whether your rosters are set for future days is to go in, click copy lines. If you think that your roster is already set for 3 games out, go ahead and try it. Except you can't. Why can't you? So when you go into the rosters, oh, looks like you haven't done it for day 3 either. One thing to keep in mind is that even though your roster is not set here on game 3, it will automatically forward the most recent full complete roster to this day. So, for example, if this game 375 against the Penguins gets played, and game 378 against the Oilers is played, this roster will automatically carry forward to game 400 against the Blackhawks. One thing that gets tricky about planning ahead with your rosters is that if you want to call up someone due to an injury, say that Fontaine is injured and you need to call up another forward. In this case, we're going to use Tyler Kennedy to bring him up. But don't just assume that because you've called up Kennedy for one game, that he will be there for the next. You need to make sure that your player that you've called up is called up for every game. Otherwise, Fontaine's injury that is covered for game 1 will not be covered in game 2, and you may get in trouble with your lovely commissioner. Now that you've been playing around with your roster and learned the copy rosters function, one thing to note is that when you click on copy roster, it will reset your lines. So you will need to recopy your lines back into the particular game that you want to edit. Something else to know is that if your rosters are incomplete, either at the pro or the farm, it may not let you proceed. In this case, because I called up Tyler Kennedy, there is a hole in the lineup for the farm. If I want to go into the lines, I can't. I must get that day one lineup fixed before I can go into any other day. Other things that you can play around with in the Sim Client version 2 are the finances for your ticket prices. In this case, it looks like the Canucks are going to be in some dire straits here, so they better adjust their ticket prices to bring in some fans. And you can also view your team prospects. It's not in this particular example, but there is a way to sign free agents through the Sim client. There's a free agency link that sometimes would be here. You click on it, you enter a bid, and after a certain time that is set in the simulator, that player may be added to your team by the commissioner. Once your rosters and lineups are set the way you want them to, save your file, which it will save as an SHL file. Keep that in mind. Once you click OK, your league may have FTP enabled so that you can upload your lines directly to the website. And it's done. Or you can go the old-fashioned route and go to your league website and upload the file manually. Now, when you do this, make sure that you upload the SHL file, not the STC file. The STC file is the league file again, and uploading the league file where the lines should go will do absolutely nothing for you. You must upload the SHL file. One last thing I would like to show you. As I mentioned earlier, the next time you open up the Sim client, it will automatically read the league file that you most recently opened. But if you're still using the same league file after you submitted your lines to your league, your lineups will be reverted back to what they originally were. As you see, Tyler Kennedy is back here on the farm. So you'll need to load the file that you saved and open it back up so that your roster is intact. So I hope you've learned a few things about Sim Client version 2 today. It is quite easy once you get the hang of it, but there are a lot of little tricks that can make your lineups go awry. Remember, do not assume that auto rosters or auto lines will take care of any lineup issues that you may have. It's a pretty easy choice to fill a blank slate of lines by clicking on Auto Made Lines. However, a good GM always double checks his work and make sure his lineups are really complete, regardless of what this icon says. I'm Kevin Lacey for the Elite Hockey Experience, and I hope that you've learned a few things about the Sim Client version 2 today. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your team.